Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the border, not about gun control, because the Democrats are desperately trying to deflect against the border crisis that's going on right now by fixating on the Boulder shooting and shit and rambling about gun crime. It's sort of a yearly tradition for them. Having problems is great for liberal politicians because you can just kick the can, you keep campaigning based on the problem existing, and then selling people snake oil that really lines the pockets of your business partners and donors while doing absolutely nothing to solve them. First and foremost, there will be a pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. YouTube is steadily demoting my content and other independent content that's in line with politics and news. Now, through its priority creator system and through search and related, being heavily manipulated at this point. Good luck finding my videos half the time. But anyway, link in the description. Project Veritas is now involved with the border situation. They got like aerial footage of one of these concentration camps, which is what they would be called, by the way, if this particular situation had been unfolding under the Trump administration, and it didn't because Trump actually competently, attempted to staff the border. We had more ICE agents, we had more border patrol in general, we built several hundred miles of new wall and retrofitted several hundred more. Now, I think another 150 were earmarked, but, Biden has put the kibosh to that. The Republicans slowed him down. It was a big problem. It wasn't even the Democrats' fault in the first half of Trump's term. So Trump never really had this problem. I remember when the facilities were kind of sort of full up, AOC went in to take her picture crying next to the parking lot and looking very sad and sour. Oh my God, think of the children, doing a fucking bullshit stick. And Schumer was there, gazing sadly into the kids in cages, and it was kids in cages then, now it's unaccompanied minors in migrant holding facilities. It's amazing how, it's like night and day. All of a sudden, we don't have kids in cages anymore. Except you've got this problem. Again, watch, link in the description. We have pictures from one of these facilities. It is so much worse than anything that was happening under Trump, to the point where there are liberals questioning the situation. But the MSM is still holding rank. The other day, Kamala Harris, you may have seen this. Kamala Harris the other day was asked, do you have plans to go visit the U.S. border? Because it's the main crisis we currently have. By the way, shades of 2015 all fucking over again. I wonder what'll happen politically in the midterms because of that. Do you have plans to go to the border? And she said no, and she sort of laughed. And it was funny because the MSM didn't push the question. The other day before that, Biden was asked, and he said, no, I don't have any plans to go to the southern border. So in other words, you intend to hide in the basement and continue not talking to anyone because you've got dementia. You're tripping upstairs and crazy shit like that, and nothing will be done. But look at these pictures. I was thinking the first thing that I thought of was, hey, Joe Biden is so bigoted, is so racist, that he's actually dressed these immigrant kids up as burritos. They've got like space blankets for them and shit. Now what they have, they have the huge prefab enclosures, and they're subdivided by essentially plexiglass dividers, and I think that has to do with COVID. So like you have essentially what amounts to cells, and there's like 10-15 kids in each one of these with like enough room kind of to lay down. And I'm thinking to myself, this is what these conditions wouldn't be tolerated in a U.S. prison. What has happened is that Joe Biden has insinuated that people should come here in a lackluster manner, said, no, please don't come. No, we're full up, please don't come. We're going to deport people. No, you're not. You're doing catch and release. Unaccompanied minors are being given to random fucking families. Accompanied minors are being given, in some cases, to human traffickers. All of the facilities are in overflow. None of them are built to handle as many people as are in them. And by the way, this particular facility hits kind of close to home because it's in Donna. It's that little town that I lived in. I don't know exactly where this facility would be. I lived in Donna, Texas for several months, actually, back in the late 2000s. Nice place, by the way. It's sort of the hipster version of Weslaco, massively expanding a lot of suburban sprawl and stuff. I liked Weslaco better. It has like an actual, downtown and stuff like that. Donna is basically a giant residential zone. It's like the overflow from Weslaco, you could say. People who commute to McAllen, mainly, actually. Highway there, by the way, insane. Texans are very aggressive drivers. They're almost as bad as people from Massachusetts. By the way, that's not a bigoted statement. Texan is not a race, although many Texans, I think, wish that it was. This is disgraceful. If this happened under Trump, they'd be calling them concentration camps. So I'm going to use, their own terminology because, it's good for the goose is good for the gander. So you've got concentration camps with sitting room only and kids wrapped up like literal burritos in concentration camps all along the southern border. And it's because Biden can't solve the situation. I'll tell you what Biden's problem is. And don't think that Biden is an open borders aficionado or anything like that. He's a bigot. To be clear, being a product of his times and not being able to see all of the internal documents from his time in the Senate, from the 70s through the 90s, I guarantee to you he is a bigot, and he has used much bigoted languages, probably towards immigrants, gay people, blacks, and so forth. I guarantee that's why you're not seeing his official Senate records, by the way. It's not due to Tara Reid or anything like that. It's not due to hashtag #MeToo. It's due to hashtag fucking racist. Here's the thing. Joe Biden can't solve the problem, because the only methodology by which this problem would be alleviated would be to go back to the Trump-era way of thinking. Well, he's already destroyed all of the immigration-related executive orders from the Trump era, stopped construction of what was already earmarked and paid for as far as the rest of the border improvements, and would run up against the left wing of his own party, dropping his approval in the process. The problem is that as a Democrat, he can't profess any solution to the problem that will actually be able to pass. About the only thing he could do is attempt amnesty. Well, he can't do it by executive order. Obama was already shot down on that by the Supreme Court. That didn't happen. Remember when Obama, in the twilight of his administration, tried to grant amnesty to everyone who was on DACA, deferred action, and then the Supreme Court had to get involved and say, no, you can't do that. This has to go through the legislature. They don't have the votes for that kind of sweeping proposal. And the Democrats, by and large, at least the centrist Democrats that control the party, they don't want amnesty for anyone. They use it as a perennial issue in elections to get people to vote for them based on the fact that they're non-white, essentially, which is one of their bigoted canards. They assume that someone whose ancestors have been here for 300 years, but they have a darker shade of skin, must have some sort of massive camaraderie with someone who stormed across the border and now needs welfare. That's not true. They realize this, which is why they've swung around and done a 180, especially with regards to Asian Americans, who are punishing them politically for being the party of lawlessness and rioting. That's happened. They don't want amnesty either. What they want is a serf class. They want 10 to 15 million people in the country. They can work. Under deferred action, it's basically, we're going to kick the can down the road for economic reasons. They can go and work at Walmart and pay taxes, but they can't challenge me politically because they can't vote, so I can keep using them as a political issue. They can't really address grievances. They don't have the same rights as a citizen or a lawful resident. They're just being tolerated in the country to work as serfs, driving down costs, living, 10 people to a house because it's all they can afford. They're semi out of the system. They're slaves. We have slavery again in America. There are more slaves now than there were in the 1800s. This time, primarily, they're from Central and South America, and they're not held back by chains. They're held back by Congress. That's what we've got. This would never be tolerated if Trump were the president. They'd be drafting articles of impeachment and alleging that the United States was slipping into absolute barbarism if this were happening. Biden caused the problem by being so pathetic and weak that he made it clear, I'm not going to do anywhere near as much as Trump did on the border. I'm not going to complete the wall, so go ahead and come across. I'm not going to demand that Mexico stop you. I'm not going to do jack shit. I'm going to rescind all of Trump's progress. And that's what it was. We made progress on the border. You didn't have the problem after a couple of years of Trump's presidency. Human trafficking, which had been a huge problem. It was an election issue. Remember, in around 2015, it was a major election issue, the border. It disappeared, by and large. By the way, same with terrorism. Do you think that the flight ban, the travel ban to and from certain countries that are overrun with terrorists might have stopped an attack or two by making it harder for people to enter the country and do damage? I guarantee that it did. The things that Trump did really did work, and they've all been completely repealed. The problem for Biden is he can't restore them. So it's a catch-22. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Which is the best thing for him, really. His approval, by the way, dropping like a rock. Even in push polling, they're not able to buoy him up anymore. The writing's on the wall. The dude's a nut. That's about all. Peace out.